We're extremely pleased to welcome not one but three of the biggest names in the new, well, not completely new now, it's been going for about a year, fantastic Department of Digital Humanities and Open Philology in Leipzig, and they're going to talk about LOFTS, the Leipzig Open Fragmentary Texts series. So Monica Berti, Greta Franzini, Simona Stoyanova, many of whom used to live in London, but now all in Leipzig. And I think Monica will tell us more about what this acronym stands for. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So thank you. First of all, we want to thank the organizers for giving us the opportunity to come to London and to discuss about LOFTS and our projects in Leipzig. So today, we present LOFTS, the Leipzig Open Fragmentary Text Series, which is a project for establishing open editions of ancient works that survive only through quotations and reuses in later texts. And as Gabby mentioned, LOFTS is a sub-project of the Open Greek and Latin, which is a part of the Open Philology project at the Humboldt Chair of Digital Humanities in Leipzig. So in Leipzig we have this Humboldt Chair in the Institute of Computer Science. And we have this big project, Open Philology, whose goal is to redefine the value and the meaning of philology, going back to the original meaning of the Greek term philologia. And the main goals of the Open Philology are to establish an open collection of machine-readable sources, to produce annotated corpora, and above all to produce workflows and new forms of open publications. And so within the Open Greek and Latin, here in this slide you have a structure of the project, of the Open Philology. Within the Open Greek and Latin, which is this big collection of classical sources, we have LOFTS. I would like to mention the supporting institutions. Well, of course, the University of Leipzig with the Open Greek and Latin and the Leipzig Open Text Series. Then also the Center for Hellenic Studies of Harvard University, which is our open data publishing partner for LOFTS. And we are also developing a teaching program in Leipzig, the Synoikizis program. Synoikizis is a consortium of classics programs in the United States, developed by the Center for Hellenic Studies. And so both the Open Greek and Latin and LOFTS are working for scholars, but also for students. We have also pedagogical outcomes. And then, of course, the Perseus project, Gregory Crane, the director of the Perseus project, is the Humboldt Chair in Leipzig. And so Perseus is, supports us through Perseus, which is this collaborative editing platform that we use for annotating classical sources, so not only for LOFTS, but also for other sources, and then the Perseus catalog. LOFTS and fragmentary text. So what do we mean by fragmentary text? We mean, by fragment, in this case, we mean textual fragment. And so fragmentary texts are basically quotations and text reuses of lost text. Not only of lost text, because of course we have also many quotations, allusions, paraphrases, and reuses of still surviving sources. But the most challenging and interesting work is on detecting and representing quotations and reuses of lost text. So basically we work, in this slide you can see on the right side of the slide we have an edition of a source text, and here we can discuss about what we mean by source text, because 2 minutes ago in Lyon we discussed about, so I think that this will be an interesting part of the discussion. Anyway, on the right of the slide we have an example. We have the edition of the Deipnosophist of Athenaeus, preserving many quotations and reuses of lost text. So, as you know, the goal of the scholar is to look for quotations and reuses in a source text, to collect them and to reprint them in a collection of fragments. So this is the work of a scholar in print culture. And so on the left side of the slide, you have a page, an example from a print collection of the so-called fragments, so excerpts from source text. And as you can see, so these fragments are chunks of text extracted from their context and from the textual data about those contexts. So we work, in this case, we work both with the source, preserving quotations and text reuses, and with editions, print collections of fragments, fragmentary authors and fragmentary works. The goals of LOFTS. So in LOFTS we are working, as I said at the beginning, for establishing open editions of fragmentary works. We digitize print collections of fragmentary works because we need to preserve such heritage, of course, and we are linking these print collections of fragmentary works to the source text, to the text from which the fragments have been drawn. And then we are working, and this is the most important thing, to produce born digital editions of fragmentary works. And so these goals are part both of the Open Greek and Latin project, which is this big collection of classical sources, and in general of the open philology. And we will see why. LOFTS, so first of all, at the beginning, what we mean by fragmentary text. Now, LOFTS and the editions. So, as I said at the beginning, in a print culture, text quotations, allusions, and text reuses of lost works are called fragments. And here we have an example of an edition of a fragmentary author, where we have the text of the fragment, so a chunk of text isolated from its context. Then we may have a list of witnesses and loci paralleli, so other sources quoting or reusing the same lost text, or loci paralleli, so other sources dealing with the same topic of the lost text. Then we usually have a critical apparatus with variants and conjectures by modern scholars. Then we may have, especially in the most recent editions, we also have a translation into a modern language. Then we have a commentary, and then footnotes with many other references to bibliography and other sources. So this is the way of working with text reuses in print editions. In a digital world, we don't want to use anymore the term fragment, which is quite misleading for textual fragments, but we prefer the term text reuse. Also because in a digital library, in a digital world, we can work within the source text, or at least we can work within the source that preserves these quotations and reuses. And so our information about most authors become contextualized annotation. So in a digital world, we don't have any more chunks of text, but contextualized annotations about fragmentary authors and works. And so we annotate well, basic information as the name of the fragmentary author, with variants, of course, titles of fragmentary works, or better, description of the content of our fragmentary works, verba dicendi that are important to find a reuse of a lost text, then other linguistic annotations. We also produce translation alignment, etc. So this is the important part for beginning to work with fragments in a digital world. So, the first thing we are doing in Leipzig for LOFTS is to work with multiple editions of the source text. So by source text I mean, and we can discuss of course about this term, but in this case I mean a still surviving source quoting lost authors and lost works. And we have to work with multiple editions, of different editions of the same text. In this case we have a page, once again, of the Greek text of Athenaeus. We need different editions of the same text. We produce TI-XML editions of this text, multiple alignments of these editions, and also translation alignments in different languages. The second step is to annotate quotations and text reuses preserved in this source. And so, as I said before, various name entities as the name of the fragmentary author, titles of the fragmentary works, and descriptions of the content. We are producing a catalog of fragmentary authors and works. We annotate verba dicendi. We produce other linguistic annotations and other metadata. The final result is to produce a dynamic infrastructure for representing the relationship between the source, the quotations, the reuses within the source, and the annotations about these reuses. In order to detect syntactic reuse, because this is an interesting part of the project to analyze syntactic reuses. We may have the reuse of the same words of the different syntax, or the reuse of the same syntax with different words. And we have interesting examples, for example, in Syriac texts, preserving the Greek syntax of the original Greek text, which is lost. Then we work also on the translations of lost works, because when we by fragmentary text we mean also not only reuses, allusions, paraphrases in the same language, but we can have reuses in different languages, as in Syriac or in Latin or in other languages. And the final result is to produce dynamic excerpts. So by dynamic excerpts, I mean, given that we have two goals. First, digitize paper editions of fragmentary works, so that we can have machine-readable print editions of fragmentary works, and in this case the result is to produce dynamic excerpts in the sense that we link these editions to the source text from which the fragments have been collected. And when we produce newborn digital editions of fragmentary works, these dynamic excerpts are annotations, and we will see examples of this. And the model for all this schema is the production of a multi-text. In this case, I'm quoting a term used for the Homer multi-text project, a project developed by the Center for Hellenic Studies at Harvard University for working on the manuscripts of Homer. And the concept of multi-text is very useful also for well, our Open Greek and Latin, but also for LOFTS, because with the multi-text we produce a representation of multiple versions of the same text. And these multiple versions represent the transmission and the reconstruction of the text in the century. So this is fundamental also for LOFTS. Then LOFTS and open editions. So how do we produce open editions? So now we are working with a collaborative platform developed by the Perseus project. which is called Persids. Persids is a collaborative editing platform for editing and annotating source documents in classics. In Persids we work with many different texts, also with inscriptions, with manuscripts, and we are using Persids also for LOFTS. So the fundamental contributions of Persids are crowdsourcing, and we are using Persids both with scholars and students. Also the students, both at Tufts University, where is based the Persids project, and in Leipzig, we have students working with Persids, annotating the sources. We produce multiple editions through Persids, multiple alignments, linguistic annotations, and then, well, unique identifiers. I will say what we mean by unique identifiers. Within Persids, and you can access Persids, you can try to use Persids. We have, I hope you can see anything, of course. You have, well, a fragmentary text editor. So this is the demo. Probably I can try to show this. Okay, here we have an example. So we have a list of fragments, and here is a demo for annotating a source. Once again, we have the text of the Deipnosophist of Athenaeus, and within the text, well, this text is very interesting because it's a huge mine of reuses of lost authors. And so the goal is to work starting with the source text, with Athenaeus, annotating the quotation. And we have different annotations because, especially with prose text, we can have different annotations. It's very difficult to define the beginning and the end of a quotation in a prose text. So the goal of Persids is to produce different annotations with disagreement among scholars, of course. And so we annotate a portion of text of different portions of the same text. As you can see, we have edition 1 and edition 2 because, as I said, we are working to produce multiple editions of the same source text. We can have also witnesses, parallel text, and then on the right side of this interface, we work on other aspects. So we have information about this specific portion of text, which is classifiable as a reuse, and so here a scholar but also a student can annotate this part of text and can produce a commentary on this portion of text. Then, and we call it lost content item. Then we produce translations, different translations of the same text, including the reuse, the commentary. Probably I can show this. Okay, then we can, this is the interesting part, we produce alignments, so we can align the source text, preserving the reuse with other witnesses or other parallel text. In this case, so we can align this text with Plutarch, the Life of Solon, and the Suda. And then we also produce linguistic annotations with tree-banking technique. This is a specific annotation of only of the reuse, but we are producing annotations of the morphology and the syntax of a text. So this is important for identifying syntactic reuses. And so we annotate the morphology, and then we produce these trees. And for the syntax is very interesting. We tried last year to work on Syriac texts that preserve the Greek syntax. So it's interesting to see this fact that you can still see the Greek syntax in a Syriac text. And then, we add other information as, links, of course, to paper editions and so on. And for producing these annotations, we use the CTS site architecture for producing unique identifiers for both the source text, the quotations, and the reuses within the source text, and the commentary by the scholar or the student. So for producing this environment, these annotations, we use different tools. Well, first of all, of course, TI-XML and the epidoc, the epidoc subset of the TI-XML. We use the CTS site architecture developed by the Homer Multitext project for producing unique identifiers with URNs for our sources. And the CTS site architecture is based on the Ferber model, the functional requirement for bibliographic records, so that we can identify not only a sentence but also a word. We can go down to the letter, but now we're working. Yes, we have requests on this, but it's too much probably. Then we are also using different data models as the ontologies and data models as the pro-ontology, the systematic assertion model, and then the open annotation core data model for annotating our reuses and also for representing the work both of the ancient author who is quoting another source and of the modern scholar who is using different sources for his or her assertions, and then HTML file. And we produce our editions under a Creative Commons Attribution Share Alike license. International. Okay. We have. Here we have a page of the TI-XML, but Greta and Simona will talk about this. Here I have a slide with an example, so how we use the CTS site architecture for producing unique identifiers. In this slide we have an example. Athenaeus in the Deipnosophists is quoting the lost author Istros. So we use, in this case we represent the triple in this way. We have first of all a site URN identifying the edition of the text reuse, and then a CTS URN identifying the source text, because with lost authors we have only one citable evidence, and the goal is to avoid the duplication of the same source, as it happens, for example, in the TLG, where we have the source text, but the same source is repeated as many times as are the quotations preserving it. So this is a problem for a digital library. And we needed to develop a system also for the identifier. So in this case we have, so the modern editor is quoting a portion of text and he classifies this portion of text as a reuse. And this is the result. This edition quotes, so A quotes B. So A is the edition, quotes a portion of the ancient text. And of course we can have different CTS URNs because scholars of course can disagree, and according to one scholar a portion of text is a reuse, and according to another scholar a different portion of text is the same reuse, etc. So then, commentary collections, yes, we are using the CTS site architecture also for building collections of commentaries on fragmentary text. In this case we call them lost content items, and in the Perseus we have many different collections, as you can see. I hope you can read something. We have collections on inscriptions, Greek lexical entities, and so on, and we have also a Perseus collection of commentary on lost content items. In these collections we have basic information about the reuse, the scholar, or the student who is annotating this reuse, a short commentary, and of course CTS, URNs, these identifiers. And then, well, I would like to mention this experiment. We have tried to use this ontology and systematic assertion model to produce, well, in this case, well, yes, we use these models to annotate, represent the scholarly activities, records of the reserved transactions, semantic relationships, and the provenance of the digital object. So in this case, using these models, you can represent, as I said before, the work both of the ancient author, who is quoting another source, so we represent the reuse, and we can see how the ancient author worked, quoting other sources, but also the work of the modern editor who is using different sources for his or her assertions. And we don't have time to discuss about this, but I wanted to mention this work, and we have also a paper about this. And this is very interesting because the goal is to produce, to represent these both workflows. So, and then, well, we use the open annotation core data model. We have an example here, and I'm using terms of the open annotation core data model, so the target and the body. So the target can be the source preserving the reuses, and we annotate the lost content items of the reuses preserving it, or the target can be the lost content item, so the fragmentary text or the reuse, and we produce a commentary. Then the target can be the source text, and we produce different translations, motivation and classifications, and so on. And for this fragmentary text demo, you can see the source code in GitHub. We are also using the source ontology, the ontology developed for the sharing ancient wisdom project for representing the reuses. And then, well, I'm going back to mention, yes, the institution, well, the University of Leipzig, of course, the Center for Hellenic Studies, PERSEIDS. In PERSEIDS, as we have seen, we have the fragmentary text editor for producing newborn digital editions, but also for the students. So the students can work directly on the source text, they can annotate them. And then in PERSEIDS, we have the PERSEIDS catalog. And with LOFTS, we are building a catalog of fragmentary authors and works. We are contributing to it. And now I would like to mention different sub-projects. So we have 3 sub-projects in LOFTS: the digital fragment Historicorum Graecorum, the digital marmot Parian, and then the digital Athenaeus. And now Greta Franzini is going to talk about the FHG. The FHG monster. We love names.
Yes, so the DFHG and its sibling projects all have a common goal, which is to, as Monica illustrated, to ultimately facilitate the collaborative creation of digital editions of these print collections, fragmentary print collections. And the first step towards this goal is to, as Monica mentioned, digitize. And so what I'm going to do is to briefly walk you through the process. For those of you who are not familiar with the Fragmenta, Historicorum, Graecorum work, this is a collection, or the first big collection of Greek, or fragments of Greek historians ever produced. It was composed by this German person called Karl Müller, and it's 5 volumes, and what it is, it's a big survey of fragments from many different sources pertaining to some 600 Greek historians, covering a period of 1200 years. And the collection has been since superseded by the even more monumental Felix Jacobi collection, but Müller still remains one of the sort of fundamental contributions to Greek historiography. And one of the reasons, and one of the reasons we are working with Müller and not with Jacobi is because Müller is completely sort of out of copyright, whereas Jacobi is still protected, and so there's very little we can do there. But I mean, Müller is pretty sufficient. These are two images of archive.org scans, with the exception of the first and the fifth volume. This is what the text looks like, and the Greek historians are organized in sort of chronological order, and then you have the book, or the work, sorry, and the book where this information is available. And Müller then decided to assign sequential numbers to each fragment. And here you have a horizontal line breaking the page in two. At the top you have the Greek, and at the bottom you have a Latin translation he provided for each single fragment. And as I said, this is with the exception of the first volume, which contains the text of the Marmorparium, which Simona will shortly talk about, and the Greek text of the Rosetta Stone with French translation and commentary. And the fifth volume contains Greek and Syriac historians preserved in Armenian sources in French translation. So that's quite complicated. So this is the kind of an overview of the text. The first steps, or the kind of the initial work we're doing towards our ultimate goal of digital editions of this work, is to first, which is pretty much complete, create guidelines, encoding guidelines, to help the team, and our student assistants provide some basic encoding for this text. It's a very complex text. You do need some knowledge of Greek and Latin in order to do anything with it. And what also doesn't really help is that Müller is very inconsistent throughout. So once you actually thought you've kind of grasped or captured kind of a structure as such, now think again, something new will come up. And so he's giving us a bit of a headache, but it's really interesting, and I'm learning a lot from it. So guidelines, again, encoding guidelines, we encode in TI, and we use the subset, the epidoc subset of TI for two main reasons. We have an in-house expert, one that helps, and two, I don't think it's been advertised, but Perseus is now migrating from version 4.0 to 5.0, and part of that conversion involves converting all of the text in Perseus to epidoc. And so this hopefully will facilitate that process. And we're also creating XSLT style sheets, which at the moment are sort of used internally to just help us better visualize this complicated text when we're encoding it. The other big chunk of work we've done, or Monica Berti mostly has done, is create this spreadsheet, or this catalogue of all of the authors contained in these 5 volumes, to give us a kind of an outline or an overview, and I'll show you that in a minute. And then, as Monica has already talked about extensively, we're kind of working on that. We're preparing these texts towards proper translation alignment, which at the moment we carry out using the alpheus.net tool, or Alpheus tool, but eventually we'll be working with Perseus, because Perseus is currently integrating Alpheus, or incorporating the functionalities of Alpheus, and also integrating it with other annotation tools. So Perseus would be a more comprehensive editing platform. This, as I said, this is the catalogue. It's too small, but there is a link, which is too long, but we'll shorten it, of the 5 volumes. So, great. So this is just basically for us, but hopefully also for scholars who are interested. It's an open document, so you can just navigate to it and have a read through. So you have volumes, orange rows, and then you have the authors in each volume. You have their location in the archive.org scan of the book, the exact location. You have their names, sort of the abbreviated forms of their names, the TLG names and LSJ names, assignee. So Monica's doing all the work, and then we're pretending to do all the work. And then, to the right over there, we have kind of fields we use internally to track our progress. More importantly, go all the way to the end, you have our CTS URMs, so identifiers for all of these authors, which we take from the Perseus catalogue, with links to the Perseus catalogue. So this is all
here
very
is the page in
interactive.
archive in the
The Persis
this
catalog.
Persis catalog with a well done sort of library standard catalog record. Again, this slide links back to Monica's discussion about identifiers. What we use for the FHG is, again, identifiers, the number, the identifier itself. We use TLG numbers, but we noticed that the TLG has different editions, and the online version does not contain all of the IDs we need for FHG. And because we want to be able to link to something on the web, it is important. They do have them in their print edition, but not online. And so we contacted them, or I contacted them a while ago, and they did respond and did do something up to a certain point, and then we haven't heard back. So this is still an open issue. What identifiers do we use? How can we fill in? Do we come up with our own identifiers? It's still an open discussion. This is just a quick overview or screenshot of the guidelines on the left. That is also an open document, Google document. You can, oopsie.
Yes,
Yeah, number 4. Yeah. You can have a look through, and if you feel very adventurous, please feel free to give us some feedback or comments. This is pretty much done, but as I said, Mueller is really inconsistent, so as we encounter issues, we update the guidelines accordingly. And then what's really good about this project, or maybe not so good for the Epitaph developers, is that we are, at one point, and there was 2 instances a couple months ago where we didn't know how to do something, how to encode something. And so we looked up the Epidoc, and Epidoc either didn't have what we were looking for, or what they had didn't really meet our needs. It wasn't perfect, and so we contacted. I think it was you. Yeah. Yes. And asked you to do something about it, and as a result, the latest release included some of the updates we really needed. So it's great. It's kind of, we're contributing to the Epidoc community, and that's why our project features or is up there with other main sort of guidelines efforts. Yeah. I love this brown colour. And yes, this kind of popped in today. I wasn't prepared for this. Guidelines. Easter egg. And this again, the guidelines we just talk. I mean, we just write mostly about how to encode a certain thing in Mueller, but we also provide information as to kind of the setup for our students or people who just feel really keen and eager to help us. They can just follow these steps and set up their computers to start work on the FHG. All of our data is up on GitHub, so we make it available as soon as we're done with it. There is a wiki there with a kind of a digest of the description we have on the website of the project, and you can, feel free to download, edit, push it back to GitHub. We have a way of moderating your edits, and your name is attached to it if the edit gets published. And again, it's all under a Creative Commons license 4.0 International. And the final step, which we're kind of preparing towards this, but we're not quite there yet, is, as I said earlier, to be able to, amongst other things, align the Greek text to its Latin translation. And the way you do that, at the moment we use this Alpheus tool, eventually it will be Perseids, Alpheus Perseids. This is very easy. What you can do is just select a portion of text you want to align to the translation. You select the equivalent section in the translation, and what Alpheus does, it automatically creates a link. You don't even see it, and it's in the form of an XML file. So it creates it at the back where you don't see it, but then you can export or download your annotations in XML and go and do other stuff with it if you want. And so this is what Perseids is working at the moment, or it can already do actually, but it's optimizing it at the moment. And that's our final goal.
Yeah, so as Greta said, the first volume of Müller's collection includes the text of the so-called Parium, or the Parian Chronicle. And this is the most recent of the 3 projects listed up there. This is what Müller's edition of the inscription looks like. So on the right-hand side is the text of the inscription with all the line numbers at the left. And then the left side is the chronology, because the inscription is Hellenistic chronology, mainly of Athenian history, including also things which we now classify as mythological rather than historical instances. So that's how Müller decided to do it. One side of the page is chronology with his explanations, and the other side is the actual Greek text. Right. So the inscription has an interesting history. So it survives in 2 fragments currently, Fragment A and Fragment B. Fragment A is also in 2 parts. The upper part of Fragment A was lost in the 17th century. We have a transcription of it from that time. It's editio princeps basically, but that's all we have. Nobody knows what it is. The second part of section of Fragment A is preserved. It's okay, it's safe, it's in the Ashmolean Museum, and that's a picture of it. And Fragment B was found in the 19th century, and it's in the local museum in Paros. So yes, as I said, it's a chronology, and the structure is quite clear. There is basically a template for each event, and it usually says that it gives the range of years that have passed between the event, which is listed, and the year in which the inscription was set up. And that's for all of these events. Doesn't matter if they're perceived now as mythological or historical, that's the template. So you have the event, you have the year of putting up the inscription, and how much time has passed between this event and the year 264 when this thing was written. So, okay, these are sketches of the surviving fragments. And because, yes, deep breath. Yes, we have high resolution images of the fragment which is in the Ashmolean Museum, but even in high resolution, the text is very faint. You can't really read it. It doesn't matter how much you zoom in. So we requested RTI images, which we received, where you can, I don't see the mouse. Anyway, the green globe at the upper right corner, you can basically move, as it were, the light. So you can have different shadings, and you can select what kind of settings allow you to read the inscription in the best way. So instead of going to Oxford with a flashlight doing that, you have an RTI image, you can zoom in quite a lot, and you can move the light and the shading to be able to read more clearly the text, because it really is very faint, as you can probably tell from this image.
We will have to go to Paris.
Well,
because it's difficult to get pictures.
That would be a long and difficult summer, but we do have to go to Paris.
For the other fragment.
Yes. So, first thing, this is not ready yet, but it's the first thing to do is to create an epidoc edition of this inscription, comparing the existing transcriptions of it and maybe adding a bit of our own. But first we start with the existing editions, and for the missing fragment we can't do anything but use the 17th century transcriptions. That's all we have. Then, once we have it all marked up, we can start identifying things inside, like place names, personal names, all sorts of interesting things, and the dates, because as a chronology has loads of datings, Olympiads, and all sorts of exciting things. And then when this is done, we can incorporate both the RTI images and the annotated text in the Percy's platform. So then we can, as it were, connect the images to the transcription, allow for different readings and recording the different readings in the editing platform that Monica showed a few minutes ago. Yes, and one very exciting thing is producing a useful visualization of the chronology, because it's quite complex. And if you read the text, it's clear enough, but it's too much information. It can be confusing. So producing a visualization of the timeline might look like this. This is a demo, it's just a test we did for fun, basically.
So unfortunately we are using timeline.js, so I'm very sorry that we still have this January 1st.
Yeah,
but
it's
really an experiment.
Yeah.
Our colleague in Leipzig tried to use it, so I apologize for this, I understand. But anyway, it works. So.
Yeah, so you can see the sequence of events, you can zoom in on a certain event and have more information about it.
And so we can compare the chronology of the Marble Parian with other chronologies and also different interpretations by modern scholars.
Yes. Yes, this is again a screenshot of the chronology. It's again for internal use to make our life easier, with the line of the inscription at the left, then the event, what happened, what happens on that line, what is this entry about, then the date that's given according to various calendars, which Athenian king is mentioned or is ruling when this thing is happening, which archon later on, other commons and things. So this is what we use to produce the timeline and to navigate through the text more easily. So yes, this is what we're planning to do with it. It's quite recent, so we haven't done the XML yet, but we have done some stuff on the chronology and on the timeline, as you can see. So yeah, first thing to do is encode it all in Epidoc and then incorporate it in the Percy's editing platform.
Okay, so and well, we don't have time. The last so digital Athenaeus, we don't have time. I just mentioned we have this work for annotating quotations in Athenaeus. The Dayton Office is a good test case because it is a huge mine of different kinds of reuses. We have a web page. You can see if we are producing linguistic annotations and many other things. And we are a bit late. Thank you for taking attention.
Thank you. Thank you. That was excellent. Whirlwind to talk through that. You didn't need to race through the end. I don't think anyone was bored enough. The soft fruit hasn't been got out. Yeah, no, that's there's a lot, so much to digest from that. I'm sure there are questions. I was going to make one very flippant comment about the well, not flippant, but not terribly deep comment about the importance that you talked about of the contribution of this sort of work to Epidoc work, and the way, I mean, you know, that's the way Epidoc improves, is by projects using it and contributing to it. So the fact that this, you know, which is unique in terms of Epidoc projects, has contributed to this, I think has been very useful and has demonstrably improved the Epidoc guidelines and the Epidoc schema for this. And I think also has potential to do the same with the TEI as a whole in individual cases.
And what most importantly, it's put us in contact with other people in the academic community, which I don't think we would have actually contacted or known of had it not been for.
Right.
It's a win-win situation.
Yes. And I just want to finish that by saying credit where credit is due. All the hard work actually on producing the first release of Epidoc that was compliant with the DFHG material was actually done by Simona, who was the Epidoc release edition last year. So that was
it made a fabulous
it
job,
was,
I have to say.
So. Just everybody had multiple heads. So, But anyway, are there any other questions or comments?
Loads. I'd like to ask, I'm very interested that you're thinking about dates. Because, and I think this would be a good time for people to be talking to one another about what we do about dates. I'm encoding a load of material which has dates in it, the inscriptions in Cyrenaica, but they have dates by lots of different dating systems. And I had a brief correspondence with Josh as to how possibly one ought to be marking up dates, which I should pass on to you, because I think that if we could agree a standard way, I mean, the thing is, it's clear it's a date. After that, all the annotation is set in. And if we could find agreed ways of doing that, even at a very primitive level, are we going to say regnal, or are we going to say imperial, or whatever? I mean, there's a whole load of very simple, unimportant decisions that if we can get them right, could allow us to do quite powerful things. I mean, it's scary time as a linking mechanism, but it's traditionally been used as a linking mechanism. That's what timelines are about, isn't it? And we ought to be able to make. I have a hunch that there's quite a bit of progress that we can make. I have a hunch that in my material, all these year 10s, once I've pulled it out, I have no idea year 10 of what. But that if one pulled lots and lots of them out, you might start to see.
Thank you.
I think that's important, because if you ask anybody who's been involved in digitising dates or in writing standards for how you record and digitise dates, they'll just say, well, it's easy, just normalise everything to modern date, to the Gregorian calendar, and then everything will be fine. Exactly. But that's when it's when you can. And even when you do know the exact date of something, before the 16th century, the Gregorian calendar is problematic.
Yes, exactly. And there's some work that's being done at Frank at the Heidelberg project. They've done something. People working in Papara are absolutely drowning in dates, and so very important people to involve in the conversation. That was something you ought to talk about it in Lausanne.
There is the cost action medioevo europeo, which they are working a lot on, not on this problem, also of course this, but the problem of fuzzy dates as well, which is in the 2nd century, what does it mean up to the
all those expressions.
103 or 104, or what is the date, and to agree about, to try to find a way to represent, because computer cannot say, more or less the beginning, choose whichever, what does it mean, more or less the beginning of that particular century. So there is a kind of a group of, the problem is, across the board, because it's not just for Greek and Latin, but all the Middle Age, and so they have problems saying, how can we date? And what you expect to happen when you search beginning of the 11th century. You expect also to have, the last 2 years of the 10th century, or you would start from the 00, which is convention is that. It's not really our rigidity in thinking of date, doesn't really match the type of material, nor the type of scholarship we have built there in centuries, because, say more or less, it could be a little bit earlier, could be a little bit later, This is the kind of fuzziness. So, and then it's a big deal. It's a big deal because to agree among ourselves even, let's say, okay, from now onward, we decide that first, at the beginning of the 11th century is up to the 15th past, okay? But what about everything that has been all the scholarship before? How can you make sure that they intended the same? So there is a big deal on that when you talk about how to agree on dates. So that's nothing. I know the Digital project has had this huge problem on how to spell out those dates.
We have temporal expressions. In the third year after the victory of Marathon, what does it mean? How do we count it? And there is a general disagreement among scholars how to represent. So this is exactly the same. So the terminology for expressing dates, and then the names of magistrates and so on in ancient times too. So the relationship between temporal expressions and
And then Müller gives the equivalent in the Gregorian calendar, right next to the year that the Magna actually says. So you have the two dating systems, but they don't always correspond because scholars dated things in different ways when Müller was doing this, and the person who inscribed, who commissioned, meant something else by these dates, and they don't always make sense to scholars used to the modern sort of perceptions when this happened or when that happened. So
and also ancient authors disagree, so to express this disagreement,
No,
that's the
that's
uncertainty.
So what it has been thought lately is that presenting timeline with more ranges than anything would be helpful. However, the point is when you disagree and when the computer cannot really take it, let's say, more or less, you cannot tell the computer, more or less, it's okay. So it is actually the two type of scholarship that clashes on that point. It seems a small point, but it's really where we are having lots of problems because we have to cut the corners too much to fit a square thing around all, and that doesn't really work.